and welcome viewers to the third episode of S.A.L.T, Serving and Learning Together, a combined class project of the Master of Divinity second year and Master of Arts in Clinical Counseling first year. Both students, of course, are from Oriental Theological Seminary. We, the participants, are all students, and this is part of our learning journey under the course An Introduction to Pastoral Care and Counselling. This video is purely for educational purposes. My name is Mihima Apon, and I'll be hosting this whole episode on anger. Well, anger is a natural human emotion that we all experience occasionally, or maybe for some more frequently. Anger can often prove disastrous if it is uncontrolled, but it can also be a powerful force for positive change when properly understood and channeled. History offers many examples of anger-inspired action, such as the vengeful, destructive anger of Hitler, and quite on the opposite side of it, Martin Luther's righteous anger against racial injustice and segregation. So, to talk further on the issue of anger and its management, I have with me today Ms. Sanglila Jang, Ms. Zoe Tahu, and Mr. Kaino Yaptomi. They are, of course, doing their second year in Master of Divinity. So, in order to proceed with the discussion, I think anger, all of us have experienced this emotion anger at one point or other, or as I've stated, more frequently. So, is it a sin for us to express our anger?
Anger is an essential emotion. If not controlled and regulated, it will lead to problems affecting the families, the relationships, the works. And divine wrath and human anger are seen repeatedly in the Bible. The Bible doesn't criticize anger, but it warns against human anger. We see that God is intense and controlled with his anger, but to us human beings, we can misinterpret anger, or we can misjudge, or we might react if we felt threatened or hurt. It can be dangerous and harmful. Anger is also needed for survival sometimes, and at times anger springs up from needing justice, love, and change. The psalmist also pours out anger, and it is also okay for us to pour our anger to God. One should be honest with one's feelings while expressing anger, along with the guidance of the Holy Spirit.
More like repetition to what that was said. But to be more precise, anger, as we have discussed, is a natural human emotions, just like sadness or joy. And anger itself is not always sin. If it's pushing us towards finding justice or finding creative solutions, it is useful. But if it leads to harm, hatred, or injustice, it becomes sin.
Thank you so much for clarifying on the emotion of anger and when it becomes a sin. So anger in itself, once again, it's not a sin, but the mode of expressing it can potentially become a sin. Having said that, can we briefly talk about some relational effects of expressing uncontrolled anger?
Uncontrolled anger can harm relationship in many ways. Suppose you are angry to one person, that person may be afraid of you, and he or she might distance yourself. It might lead to broken relationships and loss of trust when people are hurt by your anger. And slowly you will also feel very difficult in communicating with that person. It will be challenging to form a bond with that person, and even small anger can trigger. We also see that the one who is causing anger is not an evil person. He or she is deeply wounded. He also experiences guilt in the same time. That is why they do what they are doing. They do not also know how to approach anger in the right way?
Well, anger, uncontrolled anger, in a sense, is much like a uncontrolled fire. It leaves behind nothing but ashes of regret and sorrow. But as we have talked about, anger is a God-given emotion. So having said that, all of the people that we read about in the Bible, of course, we find instances of them expressing their anger. They are all very natural human beings with emotions of anger. So can you kindly walk us through or briefly talk to us what is the biblical view of anger?
So, when we look at the book of Ephesians, Philippians, or Colossians, it says that anger is a natural feeling God gave us, and we have to handle it wisely. But, like I've said, if it leads to harm, hatred, or injustice, it becomes sin. And also, anger is not always wrong. God gets angry at sin or injustice. Jesus also showed anger when people disrespected the temple. And this means anger can be good if it is used to stand for what is right. But most of the time, human anger becomes harmful when it comes from selfishness, pride, or the wish to harm others. And that is where the Bible tells us, it teaches us to control our anger in a way that brings good and not harm. So I'll keep it that way.
Well, thank you so much, Kaino, for giving us the clear distinction between God's anger and also human anger. I think it's very important for us to understand that God's anger, especially from biblical perspective, always comes and always directed against sin and injustice. But a human anger, as you have stated very clearly, can always come from a very biased perspective and can always lead to very destructive consequences. Well, bringing the discussion closer to home, over the past few years or even the past few months, we are steadily witnessing a mercurial rise in anger even in our society. So can you kindly highlight what are some of the possible factors that is adding fuel to the flame of anger in our society today?
To mention few multifaceted relevance of this concern, first I would say youth and unemployment. We have many young people who are educated and talented, but we don't have enough job opportunities because there is no private sector, and also the government cannot accommodate everyone. According to 2024 survey, there were 70,000 registered job seekers, out of which 30,000 were above graduates. So when their dreams and reality don't match, it leads to frustration and anger, and it also leads to substance abuse and taking of wrong decision. So the youth who are the future leaders carries the burden of their unfulfilled dreams, and anger comes from a system that doesn't move forward. So this is one factor, and another factor would be political instability and armed conflict. So for a long time, our state has gone through violence, insurgency, and political troubles. Conflict between armed groups, economic damage has deeply hurt people and caused anger and disappointment. And since no permanent solution has been arrived, frustration and mistrust continues between communities, the leaders, and the government. And this anger affects daily lives, making it harder for people to live peacefully. Another factor, I would say, community and tribal tensions. So we have like 17 recognized tribes, and we all have different rich cultures. But tribalism exists. Favoritism is there. All grudges, rivalries, and political differences often creates anger between groups and tribes. Again, one instance, Eastern Naga People Organization, the demand of separate state by NPO, or talking about reservation policy. I am not trying to convey that their demand is not valid, but this division makes peace and progress harder. And if this anger keeps growing, it often leads to open conflict and deeper mistrust. Like a few months back, there were 5 tribes protesting against this reservation policy, urging the government to rectify it. So these are few major contribution to this issue.
Thank you, Kaino, for clearly highlighting to us some of the genuine factors that contribute to the rising anger in our society today. Those reasons are very genuine, and the youth, or for that matter, our society have every reason to be frustrated and angry about it. But let us hope that despite the bleak situation, people will learn to express their anger in a healthy way that benefits themselves and also the society at large. However, to achieve this, our people, or for that matter, each one of us individually, really need to be aware of how to manage our anger. If we let this emotion go out of hand, as we have talked about it, the result can always be very disastrous. So, in order to help people struggling with anger management issues, what are some of the helpful steps that we can implement in order to help people struggling with anger management issues?
Learning to manage anger is a key part of our emotional health. The goal here is not to suppress the anger, but to express it in a very healthy and constructive way. So, first and foremost, it's really important for us to keep a check on ourselves. Pay attention to your physical and emotional cues that signals that you are getting angry, such as your racing of hearts, clenched fist, or feeling of tension. Secondly, you can help yourself to walk away from that particular situation or from the particular person that is making you angry. Take a walk, listen to good music, or try to help yourself calm down, and then you can help yourself to think clearly. Thirdly, I would suggest to use I statements, such as instead of saying, you make me angry, you always make me sad, or you always make me mad, you can use I statements as in like, I was frustrated when you said this. Or maybe you can say, I was angry because of this reason. So in that way, you're expressing more of your emotions and feelings and not ending up blaming on others for the cause. And also finding a happy outlet like doing exercise, journaling, and meditation, and also talking out to a trusted friend or seeking help from a therapist would help you to process your emotions. And lastly, it would be really nice of you to work on problem solving. When you realize that you have calmed down, then you can always try to identify the cause of anger and brainstorm solutions.
Thank you, Sanglila, for highlighting to us those very useful and helpful steps that will go a long way in helping us manage our anger. We have already established that anger in itself is not a sin, but how we express it can make all the difference. So if you are out there listening to this and you are struggling with anger management issues, maybe you can revisit some of the helpful steps that we have just talked about, and it might just help you out. We know there are many people out there, of course, struggling with this emotion. Some are just expressing their anger in a very unhealthy way, affecting not just their personal life, but also their family and the people surrounding them as well. So what is the one word of encouragement that you would like to give to those people who are suffering from anger management issues and at the same time looking for help?
If you're struggling with managing your angers, always remember that you're not alone. Many people out there always feels that managing anger issues can be sometimes really daunting task, but it's good to remember that it's a common struggle. As the Bible says, carry each other's burden and fulfill the law of Christ. Many people out there have successfully managed their anger and had gone out to live a happier and healthier life. You must also recognize that your struggles are valid and real, and seeking out help will be a very healthy way for yourself to express your emotions and feelings. And seeking help doesn't define you as a weak person or doesn't define your weakness, but instead it is a sign of your strength towards helping yourself. Then secondly, you are capable of change. Instead of focusing on perfection, you must work on progress. Take small steps and cherish and acknowledge the success, be it small or big. And maybe you can use these victories as motivation to step forward in life. Remember, every step counts, and maybe one or the other day it will make a huge difference in your life. And thirdly, you are deserving of getting support. You deserve support, and seeking help is a very crucial part of anger management. Reaching out to a trustworthy friend or talking out with your trusted family member, or maybe seeking help from professionals or therapists would help you to express your feelings. And it's okay sometimes to show your vulnerable side to your trusted friend. And also, always remember to treat yourself with kindness, compassion, and patience, just as you would a close friend. You are stronger than your anger. Your anger doesn't define your identity and worth. You have the strength to overcome your anger issues. Draw on your inner strength and resilience to overcome the struggle. And lastly, I want to encourage the communities, church, and societies to give importance to those people who are struggling with anger issues. Anger is not only an individual issue, but it is a collective one that affects our families, churches, and societies. Church can respond proactively by creating support groups, by organizing seminars and workshops, or by providing youth program addressing the anger management. And the church can also become a healing community, a place where every person or every people will experience the grace of God. And the church becomes a healing community, a bless for everyone to experience the grace of God, not only individually, but corporately.
We've come to the end with those words of encouragement and also some very practical advices on how the church can go about in helping people managing with their anger. We have established the importance of expressing our anger in a very healthy way, and also that there is no shame in seeking help. Thank you for joining us today and being a part of this meaningful discussion. Until the next time, stay safe and stay calm.